Good morning, everyone. Okay, so I decided to do a session this morning on one of the archetypes, and the archetype that came out was the servant archetype. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about how the servant archetype can show up in your life, show up in your business, the positive aspects of the servant archetype, and obviously the shadow aspects of the servant archetype, and how we can obviously, as the healer, as the wounded healer, get stuck in maybe both camps. So what is the servant archetype? So let's look. Just like you see, that's Caroline Mrs. card. And I wouldn't say, like everyone's cards, they represent something different. But if you look at Caroline's cards, the light attribute is delight in serving others with a free and loving heart. And the shadow attribute is using the lack of money as an excuse to not move forward with life. So on Thursday, I did a live session and I made it free for about clearing some unhealthy common beliefs that can keep people stuck in their spiritual business. And I was talking about growth mindset. And one of the things that come up was this, where sometimes we can even as a business can get stuck in that aspect of where lack of money, we kind of use it as an excuse to not move forward, right? And our clients can use that as an excuse as well for not taking self-care. And there's so many layers to it. But if we look at what does the servant archetype represent in the healing sector, okay, in the therapy and the coaching sector. So if we think of the servant is there and it serves others, right? It has a duty and a role to do certain things. Now, obviously, a lot of us can have a lot of connotations, negative connotations associated with the word servant. And we can look at it with the power status thing. But if you look at language, for example, there's a lot of words in the English language that in translation can mean something else. Sometimes it's the words that's used and the way that we use it and what we associate it with. Both my grandparents were servants in an estate. My gran met my grandfather. My gran she worked in the kitchen of Lord Stirling, the guy, the original founder of the SAS. My grandmother worked in the kitchen and my grandfather was his footman. So they were both servants. And that's how they met each other. Now, interesting, when we look at our ancestors and we look at our background, right, we can have wounds in relation to what a servant means. But many of us that are in the spiritual sector know deep in our heart and our soul that part of our mission on earth was in many ways to help serve humanity and help, but we don't look at it from a place of disempowerment. And I think this is the difference. When we look at the traditional servant role, people can often use that role as this place of disempowerment. But if you're doing a job where you really feel as if you are in a place of sovereignty within that role, and you're doing it for the right reasons, and you know within your heart and your soul that there is a deeper reason for that, you do it with a certain humbleness and you do it with a certain strength and courage, right? And there is like you're not caught up in that way as a name sort of energy. Okay, you may be respectful of other people when you're working with them, And even people that may be perceived, so say, for example, you do a job, and in some way that job requires you to serve other people. But if you know that that job is a really important job and it has a mission, you don't get entangled in the power struggle where they may be more about trying to control you or whatever. You don't get into that because the dynamic is not there. From your perspective, you're standing in your power in relation to what you're here to do, and there's less ego friction. So when you are a healer and you know that your journey is in some capacity supporting people, when you're in your purpose within that, and just because you know that part of your journey is to be a healer, and what I mean the word healer in a broad term, right? Because sometimes when we come in, we know that it's some aspect of this is our purpose, but it can sometimes take us a wee while to find that actual slot. But once we've found the slot, we serve from a place of joy. It doesn't feel like work. We don't need to have play because it feels like play, because you're in the flow and it fills your soul, right? So when you are serving others from a place of joy, right, and high vibration, and you're in the flow and you're in your soul alignment, you are serving others from a place of joy and passion. It doesn't feel like a job. It doesn't feel as if you've been a servant. You may feel as if some people might view it as a servant to God or a servant to spirituality, but it's not servant in the way that maybe we look at that word. You're serving your purpose, right? You're serving your purpose. You're not, it's not a power dynamic where, you are being less than something, right? But in your shadow element, if you're resentful in any way about that role, if you are feeling as if you're not being valued, if you feel you're being not respected, if you feel you've been manipulated or pushed, even if it's the subtlest little way, if you feel you're not completely in alignment, or you're feeling a bit freed out, of course, then there can be that struggle, particularly if you're in a situation where you're attracting clients who are trying to, so it's like when you're helping someone and you're supporting someone, if they do not, if there's a power struggle there, and if they are resenting you, or they have issues with you, or there's maybe some jealousy, or something that just is annoying them, then what can happen is that there's not that free flow of energy, right? Now, one of the biggest challenges we can have as the healer, we all come in as the wounded healer. And sometimes we come into this work because we want to heal other people because we were so wounded. But often where that comes from is actually we're not fully healed. So it's easier to go about trying to help others. And even if you are a therapist coaching, you don't view your work as being the healer, because I'm just using it in a broad term here, right? And of course, our role is not to actually really us, we're never doing the healing, right? But what I mean is that no matter what way you view it, when you're a soul-aligned business, your whole alignment is in a way serving others, right? That's where it comes from. And it's about serving with joy. If you don't feel that at the moment, if there's something, and if you want to run away from your job, if you want to, there's aspects of your job that feel stale. If you feel you need a lot of play and a lot of time out, right? You have to look and think, right, what is it? Am I serving my purpose, or am I giving my power over to other people? Is there not an equal exchange? Am I being treated disrespectfully? And again, that can be to do with misalignment. And sometimes it's relation to how you've structured your business. And this is one of the things that was a big realization for me about, it might be as long as about 7 or 8 years ago, but basically something just clicked and I realized something that I hadn't realized before. And it was because as a caregiver and a nurturer archetype, the biggest, strongest traits of the caregiver nurturer is the service to others. They don't question service to others, right? They're never about service to self. So when you think about star seeds and light workers, a lot of star seeds and light workers are strong caregiver because they know their mission on earth, their purpose is to help humanity at a certain point. But obviously, like everything, they have wounding, and if the wounding's not strong, they attract people that want to manipulate that aspect. So one of the things that I realized in my business was I always wanted at least half of my business to try and support people that didn't have their financial circumstances weren't as strong as other people, right? And they had maybe lots of challenges in their life that made certain areas harder. I wanted to be able to always support in my business half and half. And that's quite a bit. And it was something I realized recently that was with the half and half wasn't in proportion. It's not proportion, but anyway, that's what most of my life I did. So most of it, I always create. I spend a large part of my time not just creating paid content and whatever, but also content that people can't make excuses, that they can't grow and they can't move forward, right? So that's one of the things and to help to empower people. But guess what? That can create enablement, and that can create me falling in just like you with your clients, if it's not balanced, into being the shadow servant, where actually you're enabling people, you're encouraging them to not take self-responsibility, not look at areas of their life where they are being honest with themselves, or they are, expecting always someone else to fix it or sort them out, or also where there's a sense of entitlement. So if we think about the servant, where the servant is abused, when the servant is abused, there is someone there who has some sort of energy of entitlement, right? So when we can own and we're completely aligned, and we're aligned in our purpose, but we're also created a business that is in alignment with us and with our gifts and skills, in alignment with our audience, everything flows much easier, and you are creating a business that is service to others, but does not create that codependency. You may create things to help people to get that first step, so that then they can then move forward, or to help them to get to know you better, because I think it's really, really important, particularly today. There is so much access to information. There is so many choices, and there's also a lot of BS out there. There is so much BS. And for example, every healer, coach, therapist is different in what they teach and what level they teach, what level of awakening they have, awareness they have, discernment they have, understanding, knowledge, gifts and skills. It's a wide range. And for the consumer, it's so hard sometimes for them to pick what's right for them, unless the individual is very, very strong and clear in their purpose and the message behind the business, like their branding is very strong and clear. And that's why I'm so passionate about helping people with a brand, because your brand is not just about you showing up. If you create a strong brand, you don't have to always turn up in the videos for people to feel and see and understand what your business is about. They could see your picture, they could see a leaflet, they could see your Facebook header, they could see something that impacts and gets them a feel of what you're about, right? But the problem at the moment is a lot of us are shifting all the time. And when we're shifting energetically, right, and when we're shifting in awareness, and just look at the last 3 years, right, even those of us who are quite awake to what goes on in some aspects of the world and what goes on in healthcare and what goes on in certain different things, and those of us are very intuitive, right, there's still layers to that. And there's more unlocking and there's more unlocking. And what has made the difference between people who knew right away that things went right and could see past the fluff and those that didn't? I know many people who are very psychic and very supposedly very intuitive that missed the boat. And because they were not in alignment, or also they were maybe their connection, their soul connection was not clear. They maybe given their power over to other people, to other things. They maybe didn't do the soul work, their inner work. So they were coming from a very root chakra, fear-based perspective, letting that override their soul, right? When you are in flow and you're in service to others, right, and you're doing it from a clearer channel, and things become more easier, you're more soul aligned, you are more soul aligned, and everything you are coming from that place where you are in the positive aspect of serving others as a respect of serving your soul, right? Serving your soul purpose. When you are out of alignment, it's easier then to get distracted and to become the shadow, the negative servant, and you can either become the victim then, right? Or you become less, your integrity maybe gets a wee bit off, you maybe or you self-sabotage, you do things that are just not alignment, you're doing anything in business just to make money, or you run away from your business, you're exhausted, all these kind of things. Of course, we all have wounds that can keep us stuck, right? We all have inner child wounds, we have ancestral wounding. I mean, I'm just shared examples of where even my grandparents, the servant, and there would be positive aspects of that and there'd be very negative aspects of that. And that is down through my lineage, right? Because my family are very much about serving others, often before serving themselves, right? And it's about, sharing what you've got. And sometimes, some of my friends will comment about how sometimes, Eileen, I share too much, even when I don't have much, I'm maybe sharing with other people. And that's unhealthy. But the servant archetype is obviously also the power of the starseed, the power of the light worker, because they know that the part of their mission on earth, and they get the strength from their mission on earth, is being of service. And it's flow state. It's not when we're in the state of where it gives too much, right? When we're in a state where the balance is not right, there is some aspect where we're given too much power over, and we're in a state of either not having healthy boundaries, right? Either boundaries within how we do our work, how we show up, how we design our business, and even the type of clients we work with. I made a big decision last week about a few things to do right now. I don't do a lot of one-to-one work, and there's reasons why I don't. And particularly the last few years, there were certain types of work I was doing less of because there was things I was picking up energetically. And I can find one-to-one work. I love doing one-to-one when I can do deep work, but there's certain types of work that, particularly with certain types of clients, which when I've got certain wounding, can be exhausting, right? And this is where sometimes our wounding and the client's wounding, obviously, and it's a learning process. But it's like sometimes you wouldn't go into, it's not healthy choosing to go into a relationship that is not right for you. And it's the same with your clients. Sometimes some clients are just not right for you because there is certain stages they're at that they have not worked through, right? Or they're not ready for a certain stage. And that's one of the really important things about the business. It's about choosing who you're a service to others for. Because some people won't value what you do because they're not at that level of awakening or awareness to value what you do, right? Or sometimes you, in your own involvement, you're kind of in two camps, right? But remember, we are all here to service to others, but before we serve others, who do we have to serve? We have to serve ourselves. And it is, of course, that has to go back to basics. If we can't serve ourselves, how can we serve others? It's like I put out a sort of wee kind of short kind of blog type thing out in my stress coach training newsletter today. And I mentioned about spiritual discernment, something that I believe is really, really important. And how much most people today have lost spiritual discernment and discernment. It's like almost there's a big disconnect with discernment. We've seen that in the last few years. And it was one of the things that actually really shocked me, because I saw how many people who were, healers and coaches and therapists who are supposed to be very spiritually switched on and very intuitively switched on, and really struggled with discernment. And of course, there can be lots of layers, and I'm not saying it's straightforward, but also very disconnected from their own inner guidance and their intuition, and, being easily led by the narrative, right? Now, for starters, that's definitely not serving yourself. That's getting into a disconnect where you're giving your power over to other things, and you're not really going. And many people come back and saying to me, I kind of knew I was doing the wrong thing, but but what they did, they gave their over thing to maybe material things, security. They weren't giving they weren't making their spirituality at some level, or their soul their priority, right? When you're creating a soul-aligned business, it's all about the soul. It's all about being soul-aligned. And when you are really connected to a soul level, you have far more energy and far more generosity of spirit, and you have a bigger, there's certain aspects of sustainability. You have a bigger amount of sustainability. When you start doing things that are not aligned, or you start dealing with people that are not aligned with certain values and the way you work, there's a misalignment, and it causes distortion in your energy, and it can be very, so it's like, if your clients are not aligned, the work that you're doing, how you do it's not aligned, guess what? It's exhausting. It is very exhausting, right? So it's important when you're serving others that you serve the people that are going to honour, respect and value that. And I'm going to leave it that, because I've actually got to go and do a session. So just be aware where you may be falling in the servant archetype, and it's positive, it's light traits, and where you may be falling into the servant archetype and its shadow traits, where you're either falling into complete disempowerment, maybe giving over too much, or that you may be also yourself expecting other things for free, or have a certain sense of entitlement, frustration, or resentment. These all things can come from the shadow aspect of the servant. Okay, have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye for now.